Jesus.
I
I'm
just, I
so
just,
glad. Today's a whole different day. I'm so glad we're doing it today.
is it? It must be. Uh,
My background's not the best, but who cares?
it's great.
Okay.
Inner
Good deal.
space. Inner space. I don't know. I just woke up, mm, what, 45, 30 minutes ago?
Yeah.
I can't believe how I slept. I don't even know. I can't have no track of time, but I slept like 3 hours, like from midnight to three, and then I slept from I don't know another 10 hours, something like that.
Wow.
It's craziness. Oh, they're
Sleeping.
coming in now. There's a few coming in.
I have a
Yeah, I don't know. I
baby
just know today is Jupiter Venus conjunction, right?
today and tomorrow.
Today and
Yeah,
tomorrow.
there's not too much going on right now, Todd.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know what
right.
we don't have much to talk about really with the
Oh,
astro.
right. I saw a girl in the universe. She put up another one today. She's pretty good at marketing.
Here, I'm sure.
The Schumann's
Cool.
doing a bunch of stuff and solar flares and CMEs and eclipse energy, new
Yeah,
moon.
yeah. And it's all being punctuated by the Pleiades too. Everything's like lined up for that's the less like paid attention to gateway, I'd say, is that Mercury is moving in, sidling next to the Pleiades today and tomorrow. And I don't know, we're going to jump right in and start talking about things
Yeah,
or
what does it all mean? I mean, I feel like my face has just been, I get, I get dehydrated. I drink a lot of water, but when the energies are really high, I can feel it. And last night, the
is
last two nights, I haven't remembered my lucid dreams, which I normally remember them at least 3 or 4 nights a week, but these last two nights have just been deep sleep.
had a very unusual for me dream situation the last two nights.
Hmm.
And both nights, these, dare I call them like apocalyptic type dreams, woke me up at like 1:30 in the morning, both of them. The first night, um, I was like in this train station in the city, but I was sort of like in a port, and I was sort of like, it was like a travel place, but and it was an airport.
Mm-hmm.
So these planes were landing, and they were landing like without landing gear. They're just like landing and crashing and like annihilating this whole like lineup. And then I was just like kind of watching it from a little bit of a distance. And then one came like from a different angle and came, crashed down and like came and like just obliterated the whole section of where I was. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Reset, reboot. And then last night I was in this apartment, again, like foreign city, no place I've ever been on this world. And a big storm was coming through. And I was like, one of those dreams where I was in the apartment, but I was also like watching it from above in the
Mm-hmm.
distance. And like the storm came through and it like ripped the whole top floor of the apartment building that I was in off. So like my whole unit was like just it was just like evaporated and gone.
Wow.
And then the dream was like I was walking around like as myself now. I was like, oh well, I'll like use my phone to blah blah blah. I was like, I don't have my phone. I was like, oh well, I'll try to like get money. Like I didn't have like all my like everything was gone except my body, and I was just kind of wandering around the streets like.
Wow.
And then I woke up, like, I was trying to use the old technology. That's what I was said to me. I was trying to use like an ATM card or a phone or like, and then I was like, and then my first thought, of course, was like it turned to the Andaras. I'm like, oh, the Andaras are just gone. I was like, oh well, like it was just sort of like an oh well. And then I woke up. I was like, oh, this is the same time I woke up the night before. And then at both nights I was awake for 2 or 3 hours after that because it was very. And anyway,
What's your feeling on those dreams? Do you have any
um,
feeling?
yeah, just like I feel like it matches what the energy you asked me. Like, what does it mean? I feel like we're getting like a full wipe, and then we get to rebuild anew. Like all the like full wipeout of whatever. And
Yeah.
my body's been doing things like it's like letting go of all the old
Yeah.
whatever the outmoded technologies or
Yeah.
devices or programs or thought patterns or physical holdings.
Are you having any what's the word? Are you having any like yesterday was really weird. A lot of weird stuff was going on yesterday. Like, seriously, Morgan and I had a weird thing happen to us, and then like we got off the phone at one point because she had to lay down, and I was sitting there on the couch in silence, and I didn't realize it right away, but there were all these train horns. You know, there's a train track around here, but I mean, they were like all over, going off for like 20 minutes. I don't know what that was, but just like sirens and just different weird stuff happening.
Feels like a few things with so I guess there's three main astronomical things that are doing their jobs together this weekend, like today, tomorrow, is super power packed. One of them is the Mercury in with Pleiades. The other one is the solar eclipse, so it's the
Mm-hmm.
new moon solar eclipse, and then the third one is Venus and Jupiter. They're conjuncting, and then I just found this nugget of info that they're coming, and that the astronomers are talking about that Jupiter and Venus are going to look like one in the sky. They're
Wow.
coming into a union. They keep using that word union, and I looked to see when they've been this close, and the last time was August 2016.
August
So
2016.
which is a very interesting time for me in my like awakening journey for doing this grid work gatekeeping. That I had a 2-year old then, and I hadn't been away from her, and I was like, I have to carve out time for myself. So I did yoga teacher training way back in the 19th century, in Western Mass at a center called Kripalu Center. So they have like an hour night. You can just go for a few nights and eat clean, healthy food, and live on the land and do good stuff. So I was like, oh, I'll go there because it's easy and someone else cooks for me and stuff. So I booked myself 3 trips in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like February, equinox, and solstice. And it was like that was so I did a lot of like I had time to myself and time to do things. So that was that 2016 spring summer. And anyway, when I looked and said the last time Jupiter and Venus were this close together was that time in August. So one thing that came through for just the general Venus and Jupiter closeness for the physical plane, like we're gonna need, if you want to go look at that, it's a morning sky event. So they rise about 4:30 a.m. where I am, and it is. People ask me all the time, is it globally? It's like a little bit before sunrise, pretty much everywhere. Um, so you can go if cloudless, you go check it out tomorrow morning. They're supposed to be looking like they're one
Really?
body. So 4:30 to 5:30, but you have to kind of catch them, in that window. Once the sun rises, they get more dim. So
I wonder what them coming together, what that means. I'm trying to look back to August 2016. That would have been what, a couple of 6 weeks or so before I left Houston for good to do this.
yeah,
You know,
huh?
and
Interesting.
so I remember August 2016 was, somebody said, massive initiations. Yeah, I remember.
It was like a launch pad. I
Yeah, I
feel like.
remember some things going on, and in prior to or building up to me leaving, all of a sudden I left just literally overnight with 11 cents in my pocket. I actually came here to
Wow.
this little town I live in now, which is crazy because I'd never
So
been
that's
here.
kind of like that mirror. That's like I did it in dream state, but you did it in actual body.
What's
Like you
that?
just were walking around. I was talking about my
Yeah,
dream yesterday,
yeah,
like wandering
yeah. It
streets with like
was, yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
Huh.
definitely.
So it's a reset. So I feel like that time though for a lot of us was there's a lot of codes, a lot of awakening, a lot of people their remembering was coming online quite a bit. I'm
Yeah.
gonna shut off Facebook because people are messaging me. Okay, so the Venus Jupiter thing is like a big thing in its own that
Mm-hmm.
would govern our day and into tomorrow. But it just so happens it's on the same day as this solar eclipse. So some special things around the eclipse, just any one of these events in themselves would be
Mm.
massively transformational. And that they're all kind of piled into this one 24 or 48-hour period is pretty fascinating, right? It's like I'll say a pressure cooker, but it's like a rock tumbler.
Mm.
So the eclipse, so this is tomorrow's the new moon, and the solar eclipses happen on the new moon because the moon like moves in front of the sun and blocks the sun's rays for a certain little section of Earth. So the place where the shadow is falling on the Earth is the southern tip of South America, which is very interesting. It was where we had an eclipse in November last fall.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff's been happening down there. Even like the Shackleton ship was like found recently in the sea, and like so it's interesting to me that the coding of those two eclipses are happening back to back in the same part of the world, down in the Patagonia, Southern Seas area. So that's like it feels like it's sort of bookending what we did in November and December. And it's also the second new moon of this month. So,
Yeah.
a lot of times you hear like the blue moon because you have two full moons. This month we have bookended new moons. So that's like a thing too. Just as like, it was a lot of like like beginning and ending of cycles, launching and landing of missions, continue, that renewal time. So the eclipse is also where the sun and the moon are in the sky next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
If you look up at the celestial sphere, they're in the Pisces constellation, but just above the Cetus constellation, which is the whale.
Okay.
And so, like, it is right above the throat part of the whale, that constellation. And there's some active radio galaxies that exist in that part of there. It's like a broadcast action.
Mm.
Um, so that's a big thing. And then the third big thing is that Mercury is going to sit next to the Pleiades in the sky.
It's Mercury in retrograde?
So is Mercury in retrograde? I don't really pay attention to that.
Okay.
So the retrograde thing, I think it might be, or it's about to be.
Yeah,
So the other thing about
yeah.
if you look at, so if we are sitting here on the Earth, right, as we look towards the sun, we can see within our viewer, if you will, is the whole orbital path of Mercury, right? So the sun's in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and then because we can see it because it's closer to the sun than us. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a portion where Mercury's going regular motion when it's in front of the sun, like between the sun and us, and then it turns the corner and it moves like to go behind the sun from us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the retrograde part where it goes behind, and then it's invisible for a while. It conjuncts the sun, and then it moves. When it comes out of the sun, it's still going backwards or in retrograde, and then it turns around and comes back. Does that make sense? So that whole thing is happening right in the, we've talked before, you and I, about that golden gate of the Pleiades between Aldebaran and the Pleiades, between the Hyades. Mercury's little retrograde dance is happening like at the Pleiades. So it's there where it is now in the sky, and it basically just moves like in relation, like it moves very little, like it flows around, and it's going to be stationed there until the sun moves into the Pleiades, which is at the end of May 22nd, 21st. So it's like Mercury's like taking up station in the Pleiades and is going to hang out there most of May. So that feels, I haven't ever seen that happen before.
Pluto retrogrades tomorrow, I believe. There's more going on here.
Hey.
Let's see.
Well, I'm not saying to Pluto, but it's just like that retrograde thing is important to some people, and that's great.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things I'm shown to pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah.
It's other people's jobs to like note that stuff. But I'm just saying this retrograde, like the Mercury going in next to the Pleiades and hanging out there and kind of doing this sweep is really cool to me. And then I wanted to point out too that we're at the third, last spring and the spring before, this same kind of springtime, a planet moving into the Pleiades and having a big effect on us has happened. In 2020, it was Venus that went into the Pleiades at the beginning of April, end of March, and that whole, we talked about this, you and I, a bunch of times, so the world squeeze came on. And then last um, April, end of March, early April, Mars was in the Pleiades in that section. And now this year, it's like it's Mercury's turn. So I'm noticing this, like as a gatekeeper, I'm noticing these three planetary. So we've had a lot of Mars, Venus, Mars, Mercury. They do dance together in the sky. That's just how their orbits work. But it's pronounced right now. And, we kind of can feel that we're kind of, I won't say finishing up, but we're finishing up this 2-year cycle of, the global stuff that we've been all participating, being around. And like, it's just been a huge pressure cooker, awakening cycle, rock tumbler, all of it. So like this whole thing of like bookending, starting and ending, launching and landing. There's something, and I'm not a like, oh, this is what's going to happen
Well,
when this happens. I don't predict things. I just like to watch them unfold and then.
what do you think it all means? I mean, obviously, everything's coming up.
All
I
right, so
mean,
I pulled a little yeah, everything's coming up. So this interesting to me, like when I come to prepare to talk with you, there's like so many things we could talk about. And I don't know if other people know this, but Todd and I had kind of initially scheduled to do this to chat yesterday, but both he and I were like, cannot compute, like can't, like yesterday was not the alignment. But today I had I didn't have any clients booked earlier today, and got to spend some time like really prepping through like what's the highest offering I can bring to the Soulogy community and what can we talk about. And then I had all this other stuff to do, like website-y stuff, other stuff. And what came through is this. I watched this video one of those times where I was out at that yoga retreat center,
uh-huh.
and it was the Barbara
Melchizedek?
Markinak, the Bringers
Mar-
of the Dawn,
yeah.
the teaching of the Pleiades.
Marciniak.
Oh, Marcinak, say it again.
Barbara Marciniak.
Okay, her video. I think probably a lot of us maybe watched it, or it was she sent out a blog, and then someone put it to one of those faces that talk on YouTube.
Is this like a recent video?
Well, it's not a recent
Or more
video.
like a timeless video? Yeah.
It came out in this form that I'm talking about in that summer of 2016.
Okay. I got you.
And then I watched it then, and I haven't watched it since 2016. But I put it on this morning while I was doing office things, and I like had to sit down and transcribe a thing
What did you?
because it's cool for me, and I'm going to read it to all of
Yeah.
us, to you and all of us. But when I watched it back then, it had this whole like activating effect on me, and then to now watch it, however many years it is, from 6 years later or something, so many years later, I was like, oh, like now I get it, and on a whole different level. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I
Mm-hmm.
listened to this part, and I was like, oh, this helps of that whole like Pleiadian. So what I can say when you say what it means is like the Pleiadian knowledge, the star codes, the technology, the communication, that feeling of like, for a lot of us, the Pleiades really feel like a home base of soul,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of the Pleiades, like just really speak to people in a way that feels like tender and cozy and home base and really glorious.
Yeah.
And so it's not even about like, what does it mean or what's it gonna do? It's like, how can we be in receiver mode and in just like absorb some of the code and some of the information that comes through, like how we unpack it and how we utilize it. That's in the future time, and like it's the right now. It's like I think a lot of us are being like, sidelined in different ways, like not having enough energy to do things like getting in bed, like taking big naps, just that like feeling of like I just have to like chill and lay here, and that's
Yeah.
about all I can do.
Yeah. I've had a
So the
lot of
receiver.
that. That's the Pleiades
Well,
energy.
I'm going to read this thing. This is an excerpt from the Bringers of the Dawn. It's the
Hmm.
teaching of the Pleiadians by Barbara. You say her name again? I'll learn how to pronounce it.
Marciniak.
Marciniak.
Marciniak. Barbara Marciniak. She's been huge in a lot of people's wake up.
So, and I'll put the link. Can I put things on the? I'll put the
Uh,
link in the chat. I have it right here. But anyway, I'm going to read
yeah.
this part. You
Yeah.
ready?
Okay.
To be receiving. Within human cells are light encoded filaments. fine gossamer threads of energy that carry information. When these gossamer threads are working together like a cable, the way fiber optics works, they form the helix of your DNA. When you were rearranged, you were left with a double helix. Anything that was unnecessary for survival and that would keep you informed was unplugged, leaving you with only a double helix that would lock you into controllable, operable frequencies. We, as Pleiadians, came back through time into what would be perhaps be called our past, in the vestige of representatives of the light. We came back in order to share a frequency with you, a frequency that each one of you has agreed to carry on this planet in order to change the DNA of the rearranged human race. The plan to change the frequency modulation affecting the human species entails the rebundling of your DNA and of the light-encoded filaments. Earth is assisting in its own way with the evolution of the universe. It is where the plan begins to blossom, and what happens on Earth is going to affect many, many worlds. Your DNA will evolve from 2 helixes to 12 helixes. These 12 helixes correspond to energy centers, or chakras, inside and outside of your body. This process is an incredible evolutionary leap for one to be involved in, and it is going to take place for an accelerated path for the next 20 years. She wrote this in 2007. So there are those who have already received a realignment of the 12 strands of the DNA, the 12 helixes. These 12 spiral strands of DNA interact with each other in the body and outside of the body. The connection of the 12 strands means 12 energy or information centers can begin to function and send information back and forth to one another. When human DNA begins to rebundle as a 12-stranded helix system, and this information is acted upon, there will be incredible power. Individuals, simply by coming together and jointly intending what they want, jointly becoming telepathic receptacles for energy from all over the cosmos, will change the face of the universe.
Wow.
That's the little section I wrote out for share with Soulogy, because I was thinking of, your gathering that you're hosting soon. Just all of us, like, this is a platform. Maybe we come together in person, but we come together online.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I think about Morgan's little groups that she's doing every week, which are visits to the new grid. But if you really look at what you just read, that last part you just read, that's what I've observed. Like being a part of the groups, it's like there's this group beehive intelligence, telepathic, and the effect that people have that participate in it. A couple things. One is people receiving the same information at mind's eye. And then also, we had one friend, she had a couple of chronic issues in her body, and they just disappeared from one day to the next. And that was over a month ago. And these were like serious.
Well, the 12, whether you call it 12-strand DNA or 12-dimensional blueprint, or the, some people call it the Adam Kadam, like the beginning, like the primal man, like the primal human. It's like, for some, we're all at different stages of things. Mm-hmm. For some people, that 12-strand was like that's a stepping stone too. It's like a lot of people have already done the work and the 12 strands are turned on, and now like we're activating up the ladder to the 33 or to the 144 or to the 12 isn't the beginning and the end.
Right.
But it's like, it's the first chunk.
Right.
And to me, it's the 7 primary chakras. And then you have the soul star chakra. So when you go beyond the 7 primary, for me, I always go one above and then one below. Mm-hmm. And then one above and then another below, and then above and below. So there's like 3 deeper, your earth star chakra, and then the 2 below, like those are, you call them your inner earth chakras, right? And then there's the soul star chakra, the 8th, some people call the 8th chakra. And then the 2 above, which are speak to like the solar system and to the galaxy, if you will, or the solar system, the galactic, and then source code. So
So
it's like the 12, it's turning on not just your, so the Pleiades, I feel like too, like part of the Pleiadian technology and the way it's presenting to me and like what I'm offering this spring for my like classes and sessions is the seven Pleiades are like the seven colors of the rainbow. The rainbow light technology and the Pleiadian technologies to me have always been intertwined in like one thing. So I'm going to be focusing on with my peeps here at Innerspace the rainbow light body, and that has that coding of the seven. And then you add the six to it, like the more subtle chakras, or the, some people call them the ascended chakra column, or the those extra
mm-hmm.
sensory, and the three above and three below to get to the 12. So
I,
like turning us on, like, so a lot of us have having these experiences like in the soul star chakra, the eighth chakra is where you communicate to your, some people call it the monad, or the you getting the 12 aspects of yourself,
right,
be they DNA strands or soul aspects or
right,
fragments,
right.
into alignment is that
Yeah,
work of that eighth chakra. And then you can go up and talk to, you
yeah,
know, that's what like you're in the like star talking, and then you're in the like to the councils, the upper chakras do.
yeah. I've had some monadic episodes in the last 30 days that seem, monadic esque kind of. So, I mean, and I agree. I think there's got to be people on the earth that have the 12 strands fired up now.
Oh, for sure.
And I just don't know how much longer is it going to be before we start to see, like supernatural, what we would consider supernatural occurrences with people. Like I would just
Don't see
think,
them every day.
well, you know what I mean? Like things where that that really start to jump out at you more
Like
than,
me actually showing up in your living room because I
yeah,
teleported
like
there.
things like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
things like that. Like things where like the dream state. It becomes more like the dream state, like you're talking about, like being able to be in your body, but also above you, looking at yourself. Different things like that. Like that. That's how it feels to me, and that's what I'm shooting for.
Are all these comments from today?
Yeah,
Oh,
these are
hi,
from today.
Ray.
There's 111 people in the house,
So, out
but
of what you said just then, wanted me to pop back to the whole Venus, Mars, and then Mercury thing.
mm-hmm,
Because if we think of Venus as like the heart, and Mars is like the core, and then Mercury is the head. So we've had like head, core, I'm sorry, heart, core, and head activating with the Pleiades.
mm,
Another thing for me that the Pleiades does is there are different aspects of your light body that turn on at different times,
right,
and I see them as like geometrical structures. Um, some of them are tetrahedral. I don't have time to go through all of them, but the Pleiadians are like they turn on the star light body, like the talking to star family, the longing for like soul star family connection. The tales of the Pleiades, whether they're on the plains of Wyoming near Devil's Tower, or they're in the Himalayas, or they're near Egypt, or they're, in South America, all the tales, the mythology of the Pleiades is they're either seven sisters,
right.
sometimes seven brothers, and they're getting chased through by like a bear or Orion, or like some Percy, like a god or goddess, to be killed or consumed.
Mm,
And then whoever the head honcho god, be it Zeus or Ra or whatever, takes the seven sisters and turns them into stars to save them so they're not, killed. And so that's like, of all the mythology of the star lore, Pleiades like used to be humans, but
mm,
they're turned into stars. So there's a way that the Pleiadian star cluster like acts as this like soul, I would say filtration system. It's almost like the houses of Harry Potter. Like
right.
there's different aspects of you in the different stars, and it like it turns on your soul, your star light body.
Pleiadians. They
It's a
seem
lot
to have a real interest in our story down here. You know, if you look at the whole everything that's out there, like
because
including
there's a
the
lot of us down here that are Pleiadians that are like, what do you interest? It's like
that
you have an interest in what your daughter's doing, for the most part, like you're
yeah,
because they're family.
right. I got you. Yeah, they
As
seem to have
one,
a huge. So you think a lot of people here are
the other way that the function of the Pleiades acts like is like a way station. So we're in the Orion arm of our Milky Way galaxy. It's like a spur between two other arms, but we're in the Orion section. So
mm,
if one was traveling in the desert, you'd stop from oasis to refuel, to get water, to get supplies.
mm-hmm.
If one were to travel across the galaxy, one might stop at way stations along the way. And the Pleiades are one of our closest neighbors on
Okay.
this spiral arm of the galaxy. So it makes sense.
But we've stopped there before. I think that's maybe that's where I meant more than
Yeah, it's like it's a waste. It's like if it's like from here, I get on the Mass Pike and like I'm like, oh, I forgot to get gas there. There's the rest stop. Everyone's got their favorite rest stop when they're traveling.
well that one
You
is
know
because it was very feminine if I remember correctly.
what was
Pleiades. Pleiades to me feels very feminine, like a very
well. It's
feminine,
interesting.
or maybe
It's
matriarchal. I don't know what the right word would
it's
be.
everything
Yeah.
because even just the seven sisters, those are seven different suns. So they
Mm.
have seven different solar systems. And it's not just seven in that cluster. There's over 1,000 stars.
In
There's
Pleiades.
seven of, yeah, in the Pleiades cluster. There are nine bright ones. So there are the seven sisters, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's the mom and the dad. Oh, good. I'm glad we brought this up. So on Sunday, May 1st, this
Mm-hmm.
sounds like far away, but that's like 2 days from now. On
That's day
Sunday,
after tomorrow.
Mercury is actually moving right next to Pleione, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she's Mama Pleiadian. Oh yes, this is another alignment. I was looking at the alignments yesterday. So a birthplace of stars that's kind of in the our local group, like that local arm of the galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
is the Orion Nebula. So right now, when Mercury and the Pleiades set, they're setting on the horizon with Orion's belt is a little bit above, but they're setting these few days with the Orion Nebula. So like that Orion as birthplace, that's like an alignment that's happening, a Stargate alignment. But also Mercury on Sunday moves kind of like as close as it gets to Atlas and Pleione. They're the mom and dad of the Pleiades.
Craziness. Oh, Atlas is the father.
Yeah.
In
In the,
Peony. Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Greek.
yeah. I got you. I got you. It just feels like that everybody's here. Like
So
there's
the
so
Pleiades,
many.
my point is like the
Yeah.
Pleiades have like in the in the Pleiades cluster, there are hundreds of suns,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have planets orbiting around them. So there's
Really.
as many possibilities of life forms as there are. There's some like water planets, water worlds that
Right.
all the species are aquatic. There are some that are more, like feline. There are some that are more, there's like the intelligent races that
Uh,
make up the soul group of the Pleiades
uh,
is really vast. So it's not like one thing. Does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense. I'm just taking in some of the information. Like that's just one constellation that has many suns with
It's just one
planets.
star cluster.
Yeah,
So it's
just
a cluster of
it's
stars.
a cluster of stars within a constellation, I guess. Right. Or it is a
It's
constellation.
in the air. So a constellation is like a chunk of the sky that
Right.
astronomers map out.
Right.
So, yes, Taurus, the bull,
Right. Aldebaran.
Pleiades sits
Yeah.
in that, but it's those stars that are in the constellation don't have much to do with each other except from our reference point here on Earth.
Right.
Like the Hyades, they're called a cluster because the Hyades move together. They have the same vector of movement and the same speed. So it's assumed that they were birthed together and they're brothers. and sisters, and the Pleiades too. Like they're all local to each other.
Yeah.
But so anyway, there's a cluster of stars but there's more than seven. There's more than nine. There's like there's over 1,000, just over
Wow. So
that we
one,
know about. That's all we can see with our from our limited view here on Earth.
yeah, the Pleiades feels very present to me. Like, I don't know why. It just feels very present. Like things just feel closer to me.
The Pleiades, yeah, yeah.
I mean, they feel like that there's a lot of people at the party here.
So the
Yeah.
and we're this alignment with Mercury today is just kind of kicking off a Pleiadian gateway that runs through the end of May. So the Sun is about to conjunct the Pleiades May 21st.
Hmm.
And I told you Mercury's kind of hanging out there. So the Sun and Mercury conjunct when the Sun conjuncts the Pleiades May 21st.
Man, has it
And
been? Has
the
it? I mean,
heliacal setting of the Pleiades was a really important, like the beehive chamber that I've talked about a bunch that's
uh huh.
nearby me. One of its astronomical calendar functions is to track the heliacal setting of the Pleiades, meaning the last time you can see it in the night sky before sunset,
Hmm.
which is coming up soon. It's relative to it's different for everybody. But it's sometime in the May teens. So like but you have to have like a pristine eastern horizon. So like the last time you or I might be able to see it is a function of the hills and the buildings and the trees and.
Mm-hmm.
So any time now is like our kind of our last glimpse of the Pleiades in the night sky before
Wow.
it joins in with the sun. And then the sun and the Pleiades, then the sun starts sending off a lot of Pleiadian
This is
codes.
a. I mean, okay. So
Like
you've explained to us over the years that these celestial beings, objects, and formations, they have certain characteristics, just as we all have a soul signature, and when they're, I guess, in certain places, their amplification of their attributes is more pronounced than other times. But so that's been very helpful. What I to me it sounds like there's just a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I know you don't predict anything, but are there but are there like like primary um, I guess themes or energies that are that are present, that are more dominant, or you know what I mean?
well, yeah, like all the things that we've talked about, the that awakening to your starlight body skill set
Mm,
is like whatever that means to different people. Like for some people it's toning light language, for some people it's doing healing things, for some people it's technology and innovation, for sustainability, for some people it's like turning on your ancient skill set, like unlocking the living library that's housed in you as you.
that could be very
That's why I think we're
interesting.
getting that wipe of all the
Yeah,
old,
yeah,
buildings being blown away and like all this downtime we've had,
yeah. We
if not the
have too, haven't
downtime.
we? I mean, there's been a lot
We've
of
got a
down.
lot of people in the sun. We
Yeah,
haven't even talked about the sun codes
yeah. The
coming from
sun
that
since
too.
the
It's like a
sun
whole nother.
since
That's kind of like another
the sun.
factor
Yeah, the
in our
sun
transit.
since March 31st. I probably longer, but I remember March 31st. Some of the people that put stuff out saying, "Oh my God, there's all this coming out," and it hasn't stopped the entire month. The entire month, it's just been a barrage of. One day we had 17. I think one day they said there was like 50. Uh, and then
It's
waking up
like
and I feel like I've been like walking in a desert, and just getting
yes,
dried out.
yes,
Like
yes.
what
I
the
call it
heck?
rotisserie chicken. I say to my
Yeah, I
husband, I
feel
feel
like a
like a
rotisserie
rotisserie
chicken.
chicken. Like I've been on the spit being turned all night.
I know.
Yeah.
It's scary to get on these shows and glance over at my face sometimes. I'm like, oh my God. It's just like, but, you know, since somebody mentioned Sharon McKenzie Shazima, beneath the Earth Star are the dolphin and whale chakras.
Oh, that's sweet.
Last night, I did some extensive meditation, uh, and it was pretty diverse. But one of the things that happened was I found myself surrounded by these blue dolphins and blue whales. And they were off planet colors. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was Pleiadian, but it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just basically swimming with them, I guess you would say. And I knew that because I could tell by the vividness of the vision
Mm-hmm.
that I was in with them. Like I could feel like I was either aligning with their frequency or they were merging or giving me code or something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I've
yeah.
had like direct communication over the years from one of the water world planets that exists in one of the Pleiadian stars is called
Mm-hmm.
Merope.
Mm-hmm.
She's like the sort of shy, whatever, more withdrawn sister in the tales in the mythology. But I feel like there's a water world planet orbiting around her. When I say water world, meaning like it's mostly the
Okay.
intelligent life on that planet is aquatic.
Right.
Here we have both land. Well, if you consider humanity intelligent. So we definitely have aquatic intelligence in our dolphins and whales. And we're I'm teasing, but of course
No,
we're
I'm sure we
considered
do.
human
I've had
intelligent.
too
But
many
that like
encounters with in
but
real life.
there's some there's a lot of whale dolphin um
I wonder what do they
the
bring? What does that quality outside of us that's within us? What is it? What are the whale dolphin attributes? Like what quality do they bring to the surface to access? Do you know?
I think it's different for everybody, but
Yeah.
the for me, the way like one of the things we're talking here too, and I don't know whoever's comment was under the feet, what made me think of like the what I was talking about before, and the Cetus. So where Taurus, the bull, sits in the sky, the whale constellation is directly under
Oh, I didn't know that.
the bull. Like so, Cetus is like adjacent to Taurus, and their communication style, the call through the water, like the far and distant vocal toning quality is a big thing for a lot of us. And the communication style and the technology of communication and the immensity of the communication. Like there are these record keepers that hold the whole field, and like their communication is like sound code, light code, all at once. Like it communicates the whole of existence and creation. Does that make sense? It's like they're communicating fields of knowledge through their tones. But they do. Oh, I can't hear you anymore.
It was me. It was me.
Oh, okay.
I had to cough.
That's cool. We're talking about communication, and then okay,
Yeah.
found a
Seeing
nonverbal,
yesterday
a
was
silent
crazy.
communication method.
God, what were we talking about? The
Oh,
whale.
so I
Oh,
want to. Can I like
yeah. Go
wax
ahead.
personal for a second?
Do whatever
So
you
all
want to
this
do.
is going on,
Yeah.
and all this stuff's happening, and so I gave birth this weekend, back in 2009. So my 12-year-old is turning 13 on Tuesday, and last week we were counting. Like he made a note. He's like, "How many more days do I have of being 12?" And when we counted, he had 12 more days of being 12. And I kind of got that like bing, bing, bing. And like, so what I'm noticing for myself, like I have this bookended 12 strand, 12 year, when kids turn 13, it's like their childhood is like completed in a way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that 12, like we're coding it in. This is how we're coding it in my family, the 12 thing. But I also, because of his birthday and that all that's happening, and it was quite a process to get my star boy here onto planet Earth,
Uh huh.
and it had some effect on my physical body as a birth and mama, a lot of effect. And but anyway, I went back and looked at the alignments for 2009 on my star charts, and Mercury is exactly right now where it was in May 2009.
How trippy.
That was like,
What
oh,
do you think that means?
well, that's like a 12-year cycle of
Okay.
like completing the blueprint, completing the thing. Like for me, it has a personal I was like, all this other stuff is going on, but I'm also like in that, I don't know, this must have something to do with Pleiades, like of the, we all want to pass along to our kids like a free and clear field
Right.
to grow up in, to exist in, to become themselves in, right? And like, I don't know how everyone else was like mothered and fathered, but like there's often cords of attachment that go along with parenting, right? To say the least. So I've been like, oh, where do these fall in my field? Like all the places of either projection I might do onto them, or like pulling, tugging for affection or attention, energy. It's just like, it's just a really interesting time. So I've been working like to clean and clear all that up as much as possible in a very conscious way. But that, like, I don't know. And yesterday, you said we had that wipe feeling. Like he was supposed to go to baseball practice,
Uh huh.
and like both, like it was like yesterday around like when sunset time, and I like the energies of like this weekend and the codes coming in was like, I was like, all right, I guess I could go to a baseball game. Like that's the last thing I feel like doing. But then like he came home from school and he's like, I gotta go take a nap. But he fell asleep, and I was like, you know what? We can skip this. It was a practice last night. I was like, what a gift. You take a 2 hour nap, and I'll just do my thing. And anyway, so putting it out there for what other little people in our lives are working this just as hard as we are
I
as
think
the
so.
adult,
I don't see how anybody is
not more
getting
so.
out of this now. Like the last. Okay, so we didn't do the show yesterday. I
You
was
know,
happy
yeah.
not to do that first show. I think I did 2 shows afterwards.
I know, because I always make you get up early
No, no,
and
no.
do the show at two
Yeah.
thirty.
Anyway, Morgan's gonna take care of that. She told me she can take care of that. Better to go later. But I'm normally okay. But
Yeah.
yesterday was the first day. I woke up and it's like my mind is sharp. Is how I would put it. Although it has foggy moments, but my body is just like somebody's just put me through like a mashed potato masher or something. I don't know. And then today was even worse. Like I'm just going, God. I mean, like I shouldn't be able to function as much energy has gone through my body. That's what it feels like. It feels like I ran a marathon,
Yeah.
and my body feels like I ran a marathon, and I get out of bed and I'm going, how am I even moving? Like
Hmm.
it's not painful. It's just I just feel like I've just been scraped from head to toe. Every bone, every tendon, every muscle,
Yeah.
every artery, blood vessel. I mean, everything just scraped, right? And
We
it
are getting the complete recoding.
that's
I
what
agree with all those systems. It's
feels.
like
It feels like it. And
like the kidneys and the urine tract, like all that
yeah,
like the blood systems get recoded. The
yeah.
digestive system gets recoded.
I mean,
The
I've been
bones.
eating pretty good, but I've gotten off of the juicing for like a couple of weeks, and I felt like, okay, well, it's okay. Don't judge yourself. And I
Well, that
felt
bone weary, muscle weary. I've had it this week too, where you feel
okay.
like you get out of bed and you're like, ugh,
Yeah,
like you
that's
can't,
what I'm talking
like
about.
so. We're in a lot of this Taurus energy.
Feels
Like
like
Taurus is very embodied. It's the Earth bull too.
yeah. I was just looking
That
at
makes
some people talking about how they've been feeling too. But so I wake up and I go, okay, I feel so different. Something's going on. Obviously, we're all comparing notes. We know this now. And and then I go to approach the day, and I'm like, I just feels like this can be done differently. And maybe we're doing it differently, slowly but surely. But like it feels like if I'm getting all these upgrades, then as within without. So all these
Mhm.
upgrades are happening around me as well. Like like the veils being dropped and things like that.
I've
Schumann
seen
White,
a lot of comments of people talking about the body, like
yeah,
the feeling of like heavy weighted body and like just like aches and pains of muscles, joints, bones. So just if anyone else is not reading the comments and is out there listening to this, it's like if you're feeling that, you're in good company, whatever that means.
yeah,
But it
right,
is like when you go through a light body upgrade, your physical body, it ripples all the way down to the densest part of you for sure. And it's like part of what the eclipses do in general is take away any of the old, it's like we're defragging
Defragging.
the old programs, the old stuff. Like, so to let the light in, you have to release something of density in your physical
Yeah.
form to allow
Yeah.
more light. So we're heavy in that process for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to Morgan last night. She said something interesting. Because we were talking about, because I remember very distinctly, April 1st was a Friday. And I had this whole crazy day where I was getting downloaded, and then I ended up having like an hour and a half experience at a
What did you
restaurant.
say? April 1st?
April 1st. Yeah, it was a Friday. And
That was
so,
like the new moon, right? Keep talking. I'll
yeah,
look
and
it up.
so like that night, I had like this hour and a half episode at a restaurant that lasted 9 minutes, just to give you some context. So there was a lot of really crazy stuff happening. And I noticed that the weekends were supercharged, especially 2 weekends ago, then last weekend, and then yesterday, feeling everything, talking to her, like feeling, bringing in everything. And I like, here we go again. Like I just knew and know that there's going to be another big boom this weekend. And she was telling me, hey, you know how you had like that day last week, you had to eat a lot. She was talking about she had it on Monday. She had to eat a lot. She eats very little.
Yeah.
And she said, I think because she was noticing in her own dialogue, within her own mind, her own head, why do I want to eat? I want to eat. I want to eat. I want to eat, right? And she said, because she was noticing, I'm not hungry, but I want to eat. And she was saying that she felt like what was going on is that we would not run, but go do something. Like the eating makes you heavier, so it keeps that stuff suppressed. It's like we're unconsciously trying to suppress what's happening. Because one thing that it feels like to me, no matter how much you're eating or not eating, what you're talking about is happening. These upgrades, these releasing, that require releasing of shadow or density or whatever you want to call it.
Sometimes your light bot, like sometimes you power up fuel wise like that
That was
because
my
you're
first. That was my
going
first
through,
impression. Was
you're
I'm
going
like,
through a massive,
yeah,
it's, I know what Morgan's talking about, or
yeah,
what your hearsay
yeah,
that Morgan said is talking
yeah,
about, of that,
yeah,
like the eating to quelch,
yeah.
but there's eating to,
To prepare.
we are running marathons
Yeah.
in our sleep
See,
state.
that's yeah,
Or like it's like we might be like loading up for a big light body upgrade, like the light body. So you always have to check in with oneself, right? And see like, oh, am I doing this to mask or to quelch things, or am I doing that, and then sometimes you follow what your inner guidance is, because sometimes the big amounts of eating
yeah. I
are
went through and
are
it
helpful.
and yeah, some of it. And I checked in last night after she told me that. I thought that's something to consider. But I did feel there was a little bit of like like hibernating. Like so you eat a bunch, then the weekend comes. Anyway, we're in the weekend now,
Well,
so
and then it's the crystal, like becoming a crystal, like becoming a star is like becoming a prism, is like becoming a crystal. And that whole, like how I was talking about the rainbow light body and the Pleiades, the prisms that we hang in our windows shine the rainbows across the room.
right,
Like you become the crystal, the prism,
right.
as your crystalline light body and that the star coated light body come online.
I
It's
just I just feel like I feel like we're right there. Like I don't know how to explain it, but like these experiences in lucid dream, like the ones you had last night, like that whole feel, like that's how our field is becoming, like dream state. Like the
Mhm.
clarity you have in dream state, the
Mhm.
ability you have to go from one place to another, how time works. Like I received when I connected last night, I was getting this information which had unfolded uh, around us and others, and I was watching it all, and it was being explained to me that, so say it was like a Thursday, some stuff was being shown. A Saturday, some stuff was being shown. And say the following Tuesday, I was being shown that all of it was actually happening at the same time, and to look at everything as it's happening at the same time rather than chronologically. Uh, in other words, what was speaking to me, higher self, you, me, we, and it, whatever it is, was explaining that this is how we'll be digesting information now. It won't be like this happened last week and this happened. It all kind of happens together, and that was coming in. So things like that. I feel like if these changes are happening in us, there's got to be matching changes in the shared experience we have. I just feel like that it's inevitable. And maybe it's already happening. It's just very slow. But I like the visual of the prism, right? Like the spectrum, like not just within the spectrum. Like I feel like that's us, right? Like so we're in this spectrum, like a big crystal or octahedron or whatever it is, and diamond or whatever it is, and you can go to any part of the spectrum and shine whatever light or pick up whatever ray, but at the same time we're casting light as well, right? So if our inside's changing, what we're casting's got to be changing, I would think.
Like what we're emitting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're becoming like stars. And like what do stars do? They emit heat and light.
Yeah.
Seems like a good so much more to talk about, but it felt like a good landing point too. It's
true.
always nice to chat with you, Todd.
Do you want to yeah, you're like, you're my homegirl. Yeah. We're only going to have, I think, well, I don't want to talk about that right now, but we're definitely doing the Soulogy Fest. And hopefully I'll secure the place this weekend. So this will be September 23rd, 4th, and 5th, 23rd, 24th, 25th. And you'll be there.
That's the plan.
That's what's going to happen. That's just the way it is.
So I go back to, you talked about April 1st. Mm-hmm. I do feel like April, it's interesting. April was really busy, but there's a lot happening. But it was, for me, it was like this very inward, I felt like under the sea, like in the water with the whales, and very much in receiver mode. Like my normal ability to share or to write something up or to do a thing or to make a video. Like I spent today and I just went through and shared all the stuff that anyway, I felt like very much in the be quiet and listen.
Yeah. For the whole month?
For the whole month. Really.
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
And I really could. I did a lot of things, and I did a lot of grid work and gatekeeping and light coding, but it was it had to be very quiet and personal, and I didn't share a lot of it. But yes, and then yesterday we had that it felt like the low, not low point in a bad way, but just the deep point of the still point.
Yeah.
We talked about not being able to, and both you and I, when we chatted yesterday, we're I don't think it's a day to broadcast. Today feels like codes got turned on and broadcast possibilities are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think
possible.
So much of the as time's gone on, especially since COVID, we've kind of been put into this, I call it universal isolation, right? The solitude. But you're right. I think this month, even more so. My TV does some weird stuff. When I'm supposed to be in that type of space, and it happened 3 days ago. So my cable's fine. I mean, my internet and my TV just won't come on. It's not the first time it's happened. It's the third time. And I knew right away this time when it happened, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be. So that's what I've been doing. When I go there, I lay on the couch, I turn off the lights, and I don't go to sleep. I just lay there and basically receive. And not just third eye, but physically, I can feel it physically, stuff going on in my body, a lot of stuff going on in the head, in the skull cavity, So I guess we'll...
I just wanted to say, in the list of things about that coming in May, we didn't even talk about the lunar eclipse that's coming up May 16th. Just putting it out there. That's in the... So, there's this Palladian gateway and the eclipse corridor is happening like within it. But anyway, that's a whole stuff. I don't know why I brought that. I was like,
Well,
wait, I wrote a note to say like, don't even like,
yeah,
that's
well,
another that's
we can
coming in
talk
two
again.
weeks.
Yeah, we can
But
talk
the
again
other,
in a couple of weeks.
but just April has felt like this, yeah, like a deep well, like you become like the well or the chalice where you receive, like you become the
Yeah.
cup to
Yes.
receive,
Yes,
and
that's
it's
right.
felt very underwater and receptive. But
Last
like,
last question. I'm just
yeah,
curious. Uh, have you have you observed or experienced any weirdness, fuckery? I'm talking just like things coming at you to antagonize or catalyze or however you want to put it. Just like, and I'm talking not just in the physical, but in the non-physical dimensions. Have you had any type of, you know how they talk about like the 1%, if we just use it as an analogy, how the 1% or the controllers or whatever you want to call them, like as the energy is expanding, they make like a last ditch effort to engage you at a lower vibration or to steal your consciousness's focus or, just weird things coming in. You had anything like that?
well, you know, it's all within.
Mm-hmm.
It's like yes, that could, but like talk about the control. It's like, have I noticed the last not last, but the vestiges of like my own inner goo,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that stuff instead of like the outer
Yeah,
controller
yeah.
thing.
That's what I
It's
mean.
your own density
Yeah, of
that's just
course. Of
without,
course.
right?
Yeah.
So, have I noticed getting to the bottom of the,
Well, not
squeegeeing
necessarily.
out the
Just
bottom
not.
of the well? Yeah, a little. It's a lot
Yeah.
of deep stuff has been coming up,
Yeah.
and then sometimes it shows up for people. It's easier for people to process if they externalize it and
True.
call it like
It's
controllery
true.
thing,
Yeah. You're
So
absolutely
it's
right.
like
Yeah.
that, like,
And sometimes we arrange it that way, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, well, it's just easier. It's easier to interface with, or
yeah.
it doesn't have to be a bad thing or a good thing. It's just as long
Yeah.
as you recognize that, like, oh, that's me out there
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. That's right.
But yeah, that hold
And,
the patterns don't always want to like release sweetly and cleanly and be like,
yeah,
okay,
right.
hi, like
Like a hot knife
sometimes
through
there's like
butter,
you're
right?
in
Like a
the
hot knife through butter. So, oh, yeah, one other thing too. I was talking to this really interesting lady. I believe she's from Australia.
yeah, the pop on show yesterday.
What was her name?
Not pop on show. I caught a little of it. Was it yesterday after you talked to David?
I
No.
Why can't I remember anything? Let me just look real quick. So what happened was,
Well, so, was it yesterday?
I believe it was yesterday, and
You're like, I can't answer that, Julie.
I cannot recall what the hell happened. So that yesterday was Donna Evans. It might have been Donna Evans after David.
Yeah,
Manning.
Don. Okay, that's yeah.
And
Dave Ali.
David Lee, yeah. And so there's like these. So there's always been the telepathic on the show, and and different things happen. Like 2 days ago, this lady came on. That's the one I was thinking about, and it was a totally multidimensional thing. It was just like crazy. Her name was Suzanne Lee, Lie, and a lot of people knew her, and so she's been around. Like Morgan had known about her since she first started coming on the internet. She would go to her, Sandra Walter, and Lisa Transcendence Brown to validate what she was receiving. So this lady's been invested in this for quite some time. And but anyway, I was having that happen. But on this other one, it was so crazy because I was talking to the lady, and I knew, like, Sasquatch entered the room. The elders entered the room.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the next thing she says is she starts talking about, you're not gonna believe this, but it's Sasquatch. I'm like, wait a minute.
You know what's
Right.
really interesting
Yeah.
of that show?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes like it just pops out on my phone. I saw that sentence that the two of you exchanged.
So
So
there's,
that's like I was there for that moment of it, but I haven't watched the whole thing. But
I know though but I'm just saying those things
yeah.
are happening. And that lady, Suzanne Lee, that was like, I mean, I'm telling you, and I guess that what I'm saying is the show to me is kind of a barometer for what's going on. It seems like there's a relationship between what is happening and what's going on collectively. like what's available or what's happening. So that's what I was saying earlier. Like there's these things that are happening that are beyond, you know, me and you going, oh, sync. We thought about that at the same time. No, it's actually taken another, gone up another level. And I think in April, where, you know, just weird things are happening that are weird to what our norm has been, but they're going to be normal, which I think is going to be colors, additional tones and frequencies and sounds, but most of all, telepathy, right? Like, so anyway, it's good seeing you. I love you.
Thanks,
And
Todd. Thanks for having me on, as
yeah,
always.
yeah, we have
Pleasure.
165 people in the house tonight.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being
Yeah,
here with us.
nice show. So we'll be back with Donna Owens.
Oh, great.
She's lit. I love talking to
We'll
these.
have to catch her on replay. I will be on the
Yeah,
baseball field.
she'll be on in I think 2 or 3 hours. I can't remember exactly. You have to forgive me.
Still in the field of connection and unity. I'm going to end with, if people want to, tonight and the next few nights after sunset, check low on the western horizon because it's right by the sun for Mercury in the Pleiades. You probably need binoculars. They're not that easy to see at this angle and the brightness levels, but they're there just after sunset on the western horizon.
Yeah.
And if you get up real early or in the middle of the night, or if you want to get up tomorrow morning, at the 4:30 zone is when Jupiter and what's that other planet? Venus are going to be
See, I knew
really
that.
bright. Yeah, I know. Like it's something
See,
really opened
Jupiter's
up
like
while
my
we were
planet, and I think of Venus.
So
I think
tomorrow morning and the next few mornings, you can see Jupiter and Venus together before sunrise.
conjuncting. See, I think of Jupiter. That stood out in my mind because I'm like, oh, Jupiter and Venus are conjuncting. Jupiter's like my planet. And
Is
I think,
it?
yeah, and I think, well,
Yeah.
Venus is Morgan, so there's going to be some,
Oh, there you go.
there's going to be some, happening.
Some sacred union. Enjoy.
Honeymoon time, baby, honeymoon time.
I love
All
you,
right.
Todd.
Love
Love
you too.
everybody.
I'll see
Thank
you
you so
later.
much.
Okay, bye-bye.